So here we go. I'm now recording. Martin, welcome, Dr. Martin Valenti. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with us for the Unlocking Ambition cohort. Really do appreciate your time. And of course, you're not a stranger to Unlocking Ambition. We had you along to one of the events last year with the first cohort when we had Dr. Chadden Hunter from BBC come along and talk to us about the work that he's doing with Sir Attenborough. So we were in very esteemed company that day, and it was a great session. I really appreciated your input there. So I thought it would be really fun actually to have you back. You have been instrumental in selecting the cohort for Unlocking Ambition Round 2 as well. So I'm sure the cohort are looking forward to learning a bit more about you and what you do and what your day job involves. And of course, we've got lots of low carbon and net zero focused companies in the cohort. So I'm sure they will be particularly interested in the work that you're doing. So thank you very much for giving up your time. And I've just got some questions here. We'll rattle through them, I'm sure.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you.
You're so welcome, Martin. So first of all, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your journey and how you came to be where you are today?
That's a great question, and thank you again for having me here to chat with you. There's something about my career which has led me to this point, which is interesting. It would take hours to explain, but I'll do a kind of quick version. I've worked in so many different vantage points across Scotland. I've worked for the regulatory sector, I've worked in the charity sector, I've worked for myself. My wife and I had our own business. I've worked for local government, central government, national government, and now I'm working through the lens of an enterprise agency. And funnily enough is that this particular iteration of my life is probably the most exciting, because everything I've spoken about up until now is about how the environment is the greatest economic opportunity. And I was telling that to people who were willing to listen from a vantage point of a regulator. They'll go, yeah, of course you would say that because you just want the regulations complied with. Or if I was selling products or services to companies, well, of course you would say that because you're just trying to get us to buy stuff. But at this particular time, when I'm speaking about climate opportunity, I can say it with huge conviction, because Scotland's opportunity for climate change is different from every other country in the world. And by that, I mean is when every other country is circling the wagons and addressing and managing climate emergency, Scotland, through the economic lens, and we'll maybe touch on more of that later, will be pursuing economic opportunity, well-being opportunity through the lens of an economic net zero transition. And where I sit at this particular moment in my life, and I'm on secondment to Scottish Enterprise, so I'll be gone at some point, this is a really important opportunity for me to be speaking with the right context, speaking about what I've always believed to be true, and hopefully a lot of the cohort and people watching this will believe me. That's my plan.
That's brilliant. That's excellent. Thank you so much. So what takes up most of your time day to day? Tell us a bit about your role, kind of, maybe the partners that you're working with. I know you're doing an awful lot around COP26. So for the uninitiated, tell us a wee bit more about that and what that means for you and your role.
I wish I could take a screenshot of my calendar for it. Since January the 4th, after coming back, every single day, every single meeting, every half-hour block says COP something or other on it. So that is a huge signal to me, is that Scotland's got its dander up. It's got some interesting opportunities that's shaping up for COP26. And what I'm trying to do, and it's quite difficult at times, but maybe chat about that later, is trying to get all of these ideas to account for something seismic. So there's lots of little important things happening across Scotland, and that's great. But when you have the world's eyes on you, like we will have in 243 days, yes, I did check this morning for COP26, what does Scotland look like? How do we showcase what our ambition is? How do we unlock ambition? See what I did there? How do we, I thought I'd get that in. How do we unlock that ambition across all of Scotland, all of the entrepreneurial thinkers, all of the innovators and the passionate collaborators to make that count for something seismic at COP26? So to answer the question, I am unbelievably busy and hugely excited about that. Actually, I think it was something my mother said to me many years ago: if you want something done, find a busy person. So I'm joining the dots with a lot of ideas and a lot of opportunities, but I'm also addressing some of the big barriers and challenges, which maybe we'll come on to, because being bold and optimistic and being fearless and being relentless isn't naturally the space for a lot of people especially when, and I don't mean to sound glib, but especially when you're faced with the global pandemic and you've got Brexit and you've got the pandemic and you've got all of these pressures, it's difficult enough for a business to stay standing on their feet, let alone expecting them to climb mountains. But it's exactly what we need to do, because this is the moment of change. This is the opportunity for Scotland. We will never, ever have COP again. And you might say, well, if we could get it in a few years' time when we've got our ducks lined up, I think that'd be a missed opportunity. This allows us to line up our ducks. This allows us to think creatively, bold, and be ambitious. So maybe we'll chat more about that later. But every single day, I'm dealing with fantastic people who want to do amazing things at COP. So I can't complain at all about my job. I just wish I had another 1,000 people helping me on this. So maybe some of the cohort watching this will be emailing in saying, listen, I've got a great idea. Let's work together. And I'd look forward to that, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure they will want to get in touch. I mean, some of the innovation and the ideas that their businesses represent are absolutely mind-blowing, and really has been an education for me and the team working with them and understanding just the breadth of opportunity, as you say, and the passion that they have to make a difference. They're giving their whole lives to it. It's really inspiring. Is overused, but it is the word, and it does apply. And I feel incredibly lucky in my role, because I get to spend my time with all these inspiring people, and that's what helps drive me forward, you know, to do the best that I can. So you talked about some of the challenges and the barriers, Martin. What are some of those barriers that you see? What are some of the things that is tripping us up as Scotland Inc., you know, to actually doing more and having that seismic change that you talked about?
A brilliant question, and I'll answer it and it'll probably split the crowd, because some people will go, well, I don't think that and I don't feel that way. But that's to be expected. But I'll generalise here. Generally speaking, the Scots are not show-offs. We're not people that stand up and say, well, listen, I've got this, I'll take care of it. You guys, you know, you can move to the side, I've got hold of this. It's not, as their nature, our culture, our collective culture nature is humility, which is great. But sometimes we need to show off a bit, because, for example, and again, it's not a natural thing for the Scots to stand up and say it's all right, but in the last decade, so 2008 to 2018, our country cut its emissions faster than any country in the G20 and grew its economy. It was Scotland. You probably don't hear that, because it sounds, again, against that context, the background, it sounds a bit glib, and you're going, yeah, but you're only cutting them fast because of this, that, and that. But the reality of this is we've seen the challenge of climate change, we've realised the opportunity, and we've gone for it with gusto. In certain sectors, there's still a long way to go, and there's certain sectors, like the energy sector, has been phenomenally transformative. I mean, the energy sector is our golden child, that and the whisky sector and the life sciences, but there's certain other sectors which don't seem to be yet getting that moment of change, that disruption. So that's transport and maybe construction. So although there are some great things happening. So if you think about that, the big barrier is mindset. And I know that sounds all kind of airy-fairy, professorial and academic, but it's true. So the mindset that prevails is climate change is seen as a problem to manage. It's a compliance issue. And even if you look at jobs on the internet, right, environment and social governance tend to sit in compliance teams. Sustainability teams tend to sit in compliance teams.
That's true. Thinking,
that doesn't seem right to me, because what you're needing is innovative, creative, entrepreneurial thinking. Don't normally necessarily drift towards compliance. They drift to business development. So if you had to shift everybody out of compliance, who have the word sustainability or environmental social governance, and put them in business development, disruptive technologies, the mindset will shift. So they'll go from being, and this is a dreadful metaphor, to use a football metaphor, they go from being defenders to attackers. So you go from being, let's manage the problem, to, no, let's fix the problem. Let's list all the things that need to be done and then find people to blame. No, let's identify where the opportunities are and find people to partner to fix them. That's an entrepreneurial mindset. So for me, it's the big thing that if you had a Control-Alt-Delete button in Scotland, which would be great. So if somebody cohort could invent that, that'd be smashing. Thank you. If you had that, your first thing you would say is Control-Alt-Delete, nervousness, inferiority, you know, and put in passionate, creative, transformative disruptors. And the mindset of the people in Scotland will shift from somebody needs to do something about that to I'm going to do something about that.
Yeah.
And that mindset then becomes one of, and you think about mountaineers. So if you think about this very, very last example, climate change, Climageddon, Greta Thunberg, we're all dead, we're all going to die, a house is on fire, isn't a progressive way to address the issue. It's well, somebody's got that wrong. We're going to have to find out who they are, and that's not going to work. It's useful for pointing out the problem. What you need now is people saying, okay, I'm going to help. So if you shift that idea of climate change being a cliff edge, here's a good way to put it, to a mountain. Mountains are equally dangerous. They're equally arduous, but people like climbing mountains. People see the endeavour and they go,
yes,
I'm going up that mountain. I'm not going to jump off the cliff, but I'm going to climb that mountain. So we need to just slightly shift the narrative to it is going to be tough. It is going to be challenging. But if we do it together, and if we think about establishing base camp 1, 2, and 3, you can see where I'm going with this metaphor now. And then find Sherpas, people who's going to help you, like Scottish Enterprise, like Scottish Development International, like HI, like SOSI, like SEPA, like Nature Scott. There are loads of help out there. The innovation centres, the academic institutes, I could be here all day. If we find those people, can they help guide us towards the top of this mountain? That for me is the biggest challenge, is mindset shift. The mindset that this is somebody else's problem, who's smarter than us, it's going to fix. No, it's not. This is our problem. We created the first few industrial revolutions. In fact, if you think about it, Scotland hit the economic jackpot twice on our geology. We need to hit it the third time on our geography. Yeah. So we need to use wind, wave, and tidal, and all of those fantastic things. So that's I get a bit kind of melodramatic about this because it needs melodrama.
It does actually, and I'm fascinated. I wrote a dissertation moons ago about rhetoric in the public space and how it does change the public mindset. So I'm absolutely fascinated by what you're saying. And so, maybe selfishly for a moment, thinking about the public agencies, and we're supporting private sector and charities that are trying to do more in this space, trying to get that message out. And it does feel to me that there's a bit of a tipping point coming. People are starting to really get it. So what one thing could every single person watching or listening to this do to make a difference? Because, it does feel enormous. It does feel like an Everest in front of us. What can we do when we wake up in the morning? What can we actually do to make a tangible difference?
Yeah, I could answer that all day long. There are so many different things, but I'll explain what my wife and I do, for example. Yeah. We live in a typical Scottish house, right? And most of the houses that will be here in 50 years' time are here already. So yeah, there are some new houses being built that will have some carbon sequestration methods and all sorts of thought. But the fact of the matter is we're all living in houses now, and these houses weren't built with that in mind. So they are leaking energy. So get a free home energy check done to make sure that the energy, that some of it will come from fossil fuel derived, most of it from wind and electricity regeneration, thanks to Scottish renewables and the great work we've been doing in the renewable sector. But I'll be leaking stuff out of these leaky windows. The walls won't be properly insulated. They'll be putting the heating on at the wrong times and not adjusting the thermostat. This is Billy basic stuff.
Yes.
Second thing my wife and I do is we have like a meat-free Monday, and maybe like a Thursday or a Friday we'll have the same.
Yeah.
Even that simple little change. And actually what it's done is introduced lots of new ideas and new recipes and new menus. And now we've got 1,000 different Italian cookbooks on vegetarian, and the things we're discovering. Yeah. And it's cheaper. It's better for you, it's healthier, and it's tasty. Yeah. So every tiny little thing, see, this is the point, and it's to pick up on your question. We are so fortunate, all of us, to be living at a time where every single thing we do matters. Every single tiny little thing we do, the smallest thing, like having a free home energy audit, you can get them done from the Energy Savings Trust and various other bodies, and then putting in some kind of stop wasting electricity, stop wasting food, stop wasting energy, stop wasting your time by pointless pursuits. Get involved in something. If you find a local charity or a social enterprise, give them a phone call, get involved. This is what's lovely about Scotland. You're only a couple of phone calls away from living the dream, from doing something you really want to do, and finding somebody who would really value your skills. For you, for example, Alison, I know about 10 different social enterprise boards or charities that would tear your arm off for you to go and give them some of your expertise and your connections and your business savvy. So I'll maybe
It's connecting, isn't it?
just
Yeah,
connecting.
give me a shout, give me a nod. I'm
Oh, will do.
more than happy to do whatever I can. And I've actually been looking at, what are the boards needing at the moment to try and contribute in that way. Because I think volunteering and getting involved, it gives you a sense of ownership, and it becomes real. Then it comes kind of, it jumps out of the television and the documentaries and the programs. And we mentioned Attenborough earlier on. And one of the things that Chad and Hunter spoke about, which I'd never really thought of before, as you're saying, if they just give, the dramatic kind of quite worrying side of nature and climate change and really what this could all mean for our future and our children's future, you end up paralyzed with fear to the point where you think, oh, I can't do anything to help that.
It's too big.
Yeah. It's too big. And so they've taken a purposeful decision in the BBC documentaries to always come with a positive and something that actually you can contribute, you can make a difference. So these really practical things are brilliant, Martin. Having the home energy checkup, making sure that we're doing what we can to properly insulate our homes and cut down on our energy use. I'll need to have a word with the kids and their Netflix consumption. Meat-free Mondays, looking at vegetarianism, if not veganism. Some of these really practical things that we can do to actually have an impact. And surely that compound effect, of millions of people has got to count for something.
It would be seismic. It would be seismic shift.
Yeah.
And it brings in, so even doing the kind of like Meat-free Monday, think of the spin-off from a million people doing that. So you've got new business ideas, you've got all the aquaponics and the hydroponics sector that's going to say, well, we haven't got the perfect weather for doing all of these kind of things, but if we do it in this way, but it's just new, it's entrepreneurial, it's new thinking.
Yeah.
And there's something that I've read in a book once before, and I see you've got lots of great books here, but there's one book I read before, and it was about, just being optimistic, because if you constantly view, and you said it earlier, it was Sophia paralyzes, hope mobilizes. If you feel hopeful, you will feel energized, then others will be energized, and you will inspire others, and then you can run after things together, thinking, rather than assembling with placards saying down with this sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
As a society, we've moved on from finding people to blame all the time. We need to now start to find who we can partner with. Absolutely. And see, actually, some of the cohort, there'll be some young women doing this and some young man doing that. Maybe they should think about sharing some of their ideas. And before you know it, you've got new ideas and new innovation.
Yeah, I've actually heard of that happening already. There's a couple of companies in the cohort, at least, that are working together on something really exciting concerning the islands and some energy, different ways of generating energy in the islands. So really exciting things to happen. And of course, it's challenging to bring a cohort together. They've never met. They've never actually met you or I. They're kind of putting a lot of their time and effort in our hands and trusting us to guide them through this process of unlocking ambition. But the really exciting thing is that we are doing whatever we can to facilitate them to find each other and collaboration. And they've just completed a Babson module with Babson's the world's #1 in entrepreneurial education. Phenomenal opportunity for them. And a consistent piece of feedback was coming back as I was listening to them talk about that experience. And it was this concept of bright spots, and bright spots being, you look for the bright spot, look for the thing that is working and 10x on that, rather than, I think as entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial minded people, we're almost innately tuned into the problem. What's the problem and how do I come up with something to fix it? And so they have been thinking a lot about, okay, what are the bright spots in my business? What's actually working? How do I scale that up? So all of this plays in beautifully to what you're saying here, to be positive, to be progressive, to collaborate, to come together, to be bold, and actually say, I believe I can make a difference. I need to find my tribe. I need to kind of find a place to put that energy in.
I think so. And again, there's these brilliant people like Simon Sinek, and if you watch the Start With Why, I would always suggest that everyone starts with why are you doing what you're doing?
Yeah.
Are you trying to make someone's life better, or a condition better, or a service better, or something? Don't always just look to addressing problems. That was the entrepreneurs of the old and that's where you ended up with fixing problems that have got some locked in carbon long-term future. If you had to readdress that and think, and I'm mixing the entrepreneurs here. So Steve Jobs said, people don't know what they want until you give it to them, and then they can't live without it. Yeah. So what is it that's going to be in the future? What's the Netflix? What's the Airbnb of the future that the business should be doing, rather than focusing on simply trying to incrementally improve what's rubbish already.
Yes.
So why would, and again, you know, let's think Netflix, not Blockbuster Video, right? Because Blockbuster Video are probably still sitting going, what happened?
What happened to us?
What happened? We were doing really, really well, and we were incrementally improving a bit of sustainability here and a bit of, you know, transport systems. Meanwhile, Spotify and Netflix said, we're just going to steal all your business and we're going to make it easy for people because this is disruption.
Yeah.
And I think for me, what's so exciting, and you probably got the best job in the world, let's be honest, Alison. Let's just be honest. You get to speak all day to people who just want to solve problems and address solutions and create the new world. That is phenomenal. Half of my life is that. The other half is speaking to people who go, oh, it's too difficult, it's too big, I can't do it. Nobody cares. And every time we try to do something, people bats us down. I keep, again, trying to build up and saying, yeah, sometimes you just have to be relentless. And so that for me, I think, is something that we could all do collectively in Scotland. So my big wish would be just spend a year between now and COP, not trying to figure out who to blame for the things being the way they are.
Yeah.
Spotify certainly, and Netflix board didn't sit and think about Blockbuster too much. They said, let them do what they're doing. We're creating the future. So for me, something new. So your cohort, I think, should be coming together collectively, individually, and finding what the future is, owning it, and convincing us all that that's where we want to be. And I think every new disruptive business that's coming our way starts with why. It starts with, why are you doing this? And then sell how, where, and when, but why. And once people get that, people will buy the why. They go, right, that's it. I want to be part of this movement. Definitely. Now I'm going to figure out how to do it. What we've been trying to do in the past is to figure out how to do it, and you can join my gang. It doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't work because people don't buy that.
Definitely.
So we could chat all day, you and I.
Amazing. I know, and I'm just looking at my list of questions.
I know, I'm so sorry.
Where are we? No, don't apologise. It's fantastic, and we really genuinely could talk all day. It's just so brilliant. I do want to ask you a little bit. We've touched on it a wee bit about the pandemic. You know, obviously it's had this, you know, cataclysmic effect on the, you know, our health first of all, and the economy second of all. Environmentally, you know, what was fascinating to me was throughout the summer seeing these pictures coming in from different cities of, you know, swans wandering around, and you know, we even had a deer kind of. I live in a fairly urban area now, big development of houses next door to our house, and you know, these deer just kind of wandering up and down the road, quite the thing, and you could hear the birds, you know, for once. So there was just kind of a little ray of hope. You know, we all got sent home to think again, and nature seemed to kind of make its voice heard. And so I have this sense that there's so many positive things that we can take from the pandemic. What's your view on that?
You know, there's something, I agree entirely, but there's something, if there was someone poetic that could write something, it could be really, if Robbie Burns was alive now, he could probably write something about this learning. There is something now about engaging with nature, connect with nature. It's become that thing that if you have it in abundance, you appreciate it. If you've never had it, you're now noticing it. And if you have no chance of getting to, you're feeling really deprived of nature. You know, I've got family and friends that live in, you know, the hearts of cities, and you know, we do Zoom calls and they're looking, going, is that a red squirrel in the tree behind you? And I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. And there is something about that. But for me, the one thing I'd love everyone to be able to engage with nature, and that's why we have parks that were invented and created way back in the day. But we need to rethink about our parks. You know, we need to try and think about how to engage with the environment and green space. So on the nature point is that, you know, Mother Nature was basically reminding us that this was the COVID scenario will end. And when it does, don't you forget what kept you smiling throughout it.
Yeah.
Do you know, it wasn't to get back to the office and get your work done, because by the way, we're doing that in the main, we're managing to keep things going. It's don't forget what's important. You know, sometimes you need these timely little reminders, like you say, the deer wandering through the houses. But there's something also about COVID and behaviours. This has never brought more to our attention now that we need to rely on each other. That's an unusual position to be as a human being, because since birth all the way through, you either form little tribes, you form little gangs, little groups, little cohorts, little peer groups. But a lot of that time you feel quite on your own. You know, you're kind of like plowing your way. You've got to do your exams, You've got to pass your university courses. You've got to come up with your ideas. You've got to tidy your room. So at some point you then say, well, I've really got to think about my future. And without even thinking about it, you become a bit selfish.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think if people realize that selfish behaviors during a thing like a global pandemic is our undoing, that is what's going to cause it. That's why we're still here. I didn't want to get, melodramatic about it or provocative, but, that's why we're still here, is people are not willing to be selfless. Selfless is always wearing the mask, keeping the 2 meters, staying at home. Everyone, if you're listening, stay at home. This will end, and the more we rely on each other, which for me, if you think about the global pandemic and climate change, there is never going to be a vaccine for climate change. And we have to rely on each other 10 times more than we have to rely on each other for COVID. But what COVID's done is it's shown us who we are. It's shown us, it's exposed something about the humans, is that, yes, everybody needs to do something about that, but I'm not, because I'm going to break a couple of wee laws. There's something about personalities here that are coming to the fore, and you're watching them and you're going, oh, I can't believe, and again, the latest one with the new Brazil, coming in, the first thing you think of, what you should think of is, I hope these people are safe and well. But the first thing that happens to you goes, what the hell are they doing flying around the world when I'm here trying to, make sure that I'm keeping everybody safe? So what you end up getting is you get a bit of anxiety and a bit of animosity. For climate change, that has been the prevailing state. This sector should do more. No, government should do more. No, people should do more. Actually, we all need to do more, and we need to do it together. So COVID and the climate change have got some very deep, like I say, sometimes poetic, which is nice, but say very, very deep personal considerations for us all. Have I done enough? Am I doing enough? Should I do more? Climate change and COVID, same questions.
Yes, that's really insightful. And what you said there, really, you've lost your headset, but when you said about, just to quote you, when you said there's going to be no vaccine for climate change, I think that is an extremely powerful and moving statement to make. And it's very sobering, that there isn't this, knight on a white horse coming in to rescue the day, that actually we have to get our sleeves up and do the hard work. And that is going to involve, as you say, laying down our right to be individuals and to be selfish and just live in our little bubble, to actually find our tribes, expand our tribes, get to know more people, connect more agencies and partners together, work with more businesses collaboratively, not just kind of beavering away in a workshop on the latest invention, but share. And one of the things the cohort I've noticed wrestle with is around, they've come up with a fantastic innovation and an idea in this low carbon space. And because of the way we've traditionally taught business, they are petrified of someone pinching that idea. And so then they get bogged into the whole world of intellectual property protection. And all of that is really, really important. And of course, you need to protect the commercial viability of your product. How do we get that balance right of being open enough to share so that we can detect where there's scope for collaboration, as opposed to where we do need to be a bit secretive about, this genius invention we've come up with?
That's an amazing question, and every business at every point has been caught in that space. Do I socialize this and get the traction and the feedback and the insight and the intel that I need to grow it so that I can convince others to invest in it? But if I do, is someone going to steal that who's got already the investment, who will jump ahead of me? And yet there isn't ever going to be a dead straightforward solution to that. But what I would suggest is that there's something about boldness and leadership that sometimes wins the day. Sometimes you just have to just go, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go with my gut instinct, is that I know I'm probably going to be the market leader in this. And there may be other versions of this that will come out maybe faster, but I'm associated. The sooner you expose this invention, this idea of service with you become its story. People may try and, for example, if I had to try and make a new, a pair iPhone, right? People are going to go, I'm pretty sure there's an Apple iPhone, I think the sooner you get out there and start to socialize your idea and own the narrative and then speak about it, yes, there may be replications and duplications, and that's the fine, but don't be fearful of that. Just be convinced. You can't change externalities all the time, but what you can be certain of is what you do.
Yeah.
And that's why I would say, if you're an entrepreneur, is it's not about looking over your back or looking to your side. It's just looking ahead. That sounds like a dreadful metaphor, but you keep looking ahead and keep running fast, and people are always going to be chasing you. It doesn't matter who they are, they're always going to be chasing you. And even if people, to stick with that, overtake you, they don't know where the destination is. You do, because it's your idea. So there's something about be completely Captain Kirk in this. Boldly go where no one else is gone, and don't be fearful that that thing you're looking at on the radar is going to be something that's going to wipe you out, or is going to be the best opportunity of your life. An entrepreneur just thinks about the opportunity. Other people think about the risks. So that maybe helps people answer the question about themselves. They all think, am I an entrepreneur, or am I just somebody that's a savvy business person? And I heard a brilliant story once that helps you decide which one you are, and it's quite interesting. And it was Simon Sinek. He said he walked into a mall in America with a friend who's a business person, and he spotted a sign that says free donuts with coffee. And he said, look, free donuts with coffee, I'm going to get in that queue. The other guy said, yeah, but look at the length of the queue. You're going to have to wait for ages. And Simon Sinek said at that point, he said, I realized then that I was the entrepreneur. I was thinking about the free donut.
Yeah.
He was thinking about the problems he would have to encounter to get the donut.
The barrier.
The barrier. Entrepreneurs don't see barriers and problems. They recognize them and dismiss them. They recognize them and risk them, but you can't stop to look for the perfect solution. It's called paralysis by analysis, and the more you do it, the less you'll be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that story as well. And I don't know if it's Simon Sinek who shares the story about the car sitting in the garage waiting until all the lights are green all the way to your destination before you set off. And you think, well, that's crazy, that's ridiculous. But actually, isn't that what we do a lot of the time? We think, well, I'll wait until I can see a clear path, and then I know I'm going to succeed. And unfortunately, life is just not like that in any sphere of life, let alone business. So yeah, really, really powerful stories, powerful analogies to hopefully really help encourage people who are listening and watching this to think, actually, I'm going to go for it. Sometimes forgiveness is better than permission. That's my other favorite. I should get a t-shirt with that, or a poster.
You should get one. I've got one that says proceed until apprehended.
I like that one. I do like that one, actually. Yeah. I mean, really, what's the worst that can happen with these things? And I think people can tell the difference between somebody who is destructive as opposed to constructive, and is just maybe making some mistakes along the way, but actually the passion and the heart is right. And so, we just rely on a bit of grace from one another from time to time.
But it's something you hear a lot about. If they call it, this is the era of VUCA, and I heard that and I got so annoyed. VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous.
That's right.
I'm thinking, if you were a young entrepreneur and you've been told by everyone that this is Climageddon and the era of VUCA, you would just stay at home and tend to your garden.
It's really scary. Yeah.
This is why you need, and I go back to the Captain Kirk line, is you need people that go, I don't actually know what the future's going to be like, but I know that I'm not going to stop trying till I get there. I'm going to be relentless, and I'm going to just keep going. And when you get that momentum and you get that passion, you'll find people watching going, I want to get involved. I want to help. If you're someone that's standing over here saying, well, the very best we can hope for is, a 0-0 draw, and you think, I can't subscribe to that. I want to play in a team that has aspirations for victory. I'm not interested in this kind of approach here. But anyway, you and I could definitely we're going to have to write a book. I can see it now.
I know. This is going to have to be like an interview series for sure. I'd love that. I would absolutely love that. Netflix, yeah, we could be the next binge, couldn't we?
Let's get it done. We could be the crown of the future.
That's amazing. I'm writing that down. Actually, I'll let Netflix know. They can send the crew. Marvelous. So, I mean, it's just been absolutely fascinating, Martin. And before I let you go, I really want to ask you some of our lightning round questions. So these are just fun little questions. We ask all our guests these questions. So the first one is, maybe we could guess the answer at this, but you might surprise us. What keeps you awake at night, if anything?
The thing that most keeps me awake at night is Because 243 days to get Scotland looking like the most progressive net zero economy, visionary, passionate country in the world. And that's not an awful long time. That's under 9 months. So if it's taken us 300 years to develop a kind of confidence about being, do you know what, we could probably do it. We did the Enlightenment, by the way. We did give the world the current economic system, flawed though it may be, and we can create the new one. So if it's taken 300 years for us to become nervous and worried and lost our mojo, are we going to get it back in 243 days? So that's what keeps me awake, is that I want to see much more people like you, the cohort, which was very encouraging to see. And I want to see Scotland say, yes, it's going to be tough, but we are going to do this. We're going to be relentless, and we're going to show the world that we have got this. You know, and to be honest, think about the responsibility. We created much of the economic and environmental challenges this planet is currently dealing with, and some countries are dealing with horrendous insecurity and all sorts of complex problems. We've got something to bring to the table in 9 months' time, and we need to be the very best Scotland and the very best passionately creative people that we should be. That keeps me awake at night, because the people I speak to go, it's not my normal thing, but I'm going to have a go, right? That's good, but we need 5 million people to be doing that quite quickly. So if you can help, that would be smashing.
I will do my best, I promise.
Thank you.
I will do everything I can, and it is wonderful. I mean, we're only on the second iteration of Unlocking Ambition, and the government policy driver for this one was let's focus on low carbon, focus on green, the opportunities that are there, and other industries that underpin all of that. You know, these things don't exist in isolation. Of course they don't. Health is in there, digital competency for Scotland is in there. So I'm personally massively excited about this cohort. I can't wait to see what they achieve. It's going to be mind-blowing. And the previous cohort as well, who have been giving up their time to pop up and help us.
Amazing.
Phenomenal. And people, you know, we talk about companies and businesses all the time, which is a bit faceless, but these are people that we know, and the team in Unlocking Ambition, we get to know the people as much as we possibly can to help them as much as we can. And it really is down to people relationships. So
it is fabulous. It is. I mean, I'm struggling to get to sleep. I'll maybe think about the Unlocking Ambition cohort, and I'll go, actually, that will help me. That's my kind of sleep easy, I think.
Yeah.
We've got this.
There's hope.
There's hope. There's definitely hope. There's always hope.
Absolutely. And my next question, 2 of 3, is what is your favourite place in the world and why?
Florence. Goes without saying. I absolutely love it. My mother came from Irish stock, my father from Italian, hence the crazy name Valenti. A passionate Scot, though. I'll declare that right now. But when I go to Florence, I transform. And it's something about that Florentine mentality. I just feel, look at the Renaissance, look at what happened here, look at the endeavour, look at the achievement, look at the hard work, look at what they've done, look at the culture. That didn't come overnight. That took a long time, and it took a lot of commitment, and it took a lot of money, which is important. You know, the Medici family funded most of Florence to make it look as stunning as it does, but there's something about, and this is, of course, some people may argue, there is a thing called la bella figura, which is an Italian thing. It means a positive state of mind. And Italians they're not arrogant and smarmy and show off about their country. They're just confident. They wander up and down the street and go, Michelangelo, Botticelli, Giotto, well, I could name them all day long. These are people who gave a massive amount of time to bring an incalculable amount of joy to other people. So there's something about that. And I was sitting in this room, got a big picture up there of the Duomo. You know, it's just something about Florence that makes me feel totally alive and very, very happy to be, you know, from that genes at some point. Amazing. But I just want this country to feel a bit more confident about itself, not in a smarmy. And that's the important thing about COP here, is this isn't about Glasgow being great and Scotland being great and the rest of the world falling apart. That's failure. We have to show the world that there's a hopeful nation that's 1/700th of the world's emissions. And the reason why we're doing big stuff in climate change is because we can.
Yes.
And because we will, and because we should. And there's something about that story. So, sorry, I'll make my answers shorter next time, I promise.
No, not at all. You're fine. It's absolutely stunning. And hopefully we'll be able to get overseas.
Yes.
in future, and just soak up all that culture and that inspiration, because it is so important. You do come back home, don't you, with a fresh set of eyes. You never lose your love and your passion for Scotland, but you get so excited about the potential we have as a nation, and the sense of national pride. And it ties into a lot of what we said about people appreciating the green space that they have, people thinking about nature and what matters most. And so that's lovely. It's lovely to hear a bit more about your background and heritage.
I should say my second favourite place is Kildonan on Arran. My wife and I go to Kildonan, just on that south coast, and we sit and we just listen to the curlews and the oyster catchers, looking at Plada and Ailsa Craig, and that's where you feel you are part of nature. It just so I could have started with that one, but I suppose because I'm sitting here with the door.
You've got the art.
and we spend, if we had lots of money, we would spend 50% in Arran, in Florence. That would be my dream one day. But
that would be perfect.
I'll settle with Arran if that's all I can manage to afford in the future.
It sounds just as good. It sounds amazing, heavenly. And last but by no means least, and we kind of got caught up talking about this before we pressed record, what books or podcasts, you've mentioned Simon Sinek, what else do you like to take in to keep you inspired?
I've got my two go-tos I would mention all the time is Mariana Mazzucato. She speaks about the entrepreneurial state. She's just got a new book out called Mission Economy. Great. And she's speaking in Scotland at an event on March the 9th and 10th. I'll plug that as Scottish Development International. I've been helping pick some of the speakers, and we've got Mariana Mazzucato. She's this global rock star economist. Awesome. Mazzucato, that sounds Italian. You can see where I'm going there.
Yes.
And although she was born in England, but she's got Italian family, and she speaks about this new world economy. So if anyone's got a chance to Google Mariana Mazzucato, and her very first book was called The Value of Everything, because she's speaking about values, but David Attenborough speaks a lot about, he's quoting Mariana Mazzucato. So she's one to look at. And the other one is someone who I've met, who I'm still absolutely gobsmacked that I did, was Christiana Figueres, who was one of the founding partners of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. The first ever global agreement on climate change was done by this woman and two other women. Just to mention, the 20 COPs that happened before there all failed. Just thought I'd throw that one in. So COP21 in Paris was the only one we got a global agreement, a proper one. And that was Christiana Figueres from Costa Rica. Again, people can Google her. Her latest book is called The Future We Choose. And she writes it in partnership with a guy called Tom Rivett-Carnac. And in it is the best quote I've ever heard. She speaks about the Greta Thunberg on one end of the spectrum saying everything's wrong, your house is on fire, you all need to get, there's problems there, and we just want to point to the problems all day and cause climate anxiety. Tick, because young people are constantly anxious about climate change now. And on the other end, you've got Christiana Figueres speaking about optimism. So you've got outrage and optimism. What she said was a brilliant quote. She said is that there is little point in being outraged without optimism, because that leads to defeatism.
Yes.
Similarly, there's very little point in being optimistic without being outraged, because that leads to incremental progress. So at some point, you have to position yourself in that spectrum and go, I'm outraged at the way things are, but I'm going to do something about it because I'm optimistic.
Yes.
That is a very, very, very important key message for anyone watching this, is that it's all right to be annoyed at what's not been done, but don't dwell on it.
Yeah.
Because
don't
fear
get stuck.
paralyzes. Optimism mobilizes. Focus on, okay, I understand these challenges. I'm going to address them, and you're going to help me, and we're going to make a good business out of it, and people are going to love us. And this is the future business model. So it's really, really exciting for me. So the future we choose, Christiana Figueres and Mariana Mazzucato. Brilliant. And if I could squeeze in a third, there's another one.
Yes, of course.
It's Kate Rayworth, who again we've worked with before in the past. Kate Rayworth did the Countdown to COP event for us. Like 2,500 people online. I had to chair this event, and I was a bag of nerves all the way through it. Not because of chairing it, because Kate Rayworth was there, and I was starstruck. And she speaks about donut economics. So if anyone wants to read the Donut Economics book from Kate Rayworth and the podcast, I urge you to do so.
Excellent. Really good. Fantastic recommendations. And I'll link them in the post below or above.
Thank you.
We'll link them just so that people can pick them up really easily. But they're amazing recommendations. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. I genuinely, that has been the fastest half hour of my life. I have enjoyed listening to you immensely, Martin. It's always a pleasure. Every time we talk, I come away energized, inspired. I feel affirmed about what I'm doing with my life and my time to help these entrepreneurs. So sincerely, thank you so much. And
It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Magic, thank you.
Thanks
Cheers.
now.